Live from our downtown New Bedford studios, it's New Bedford Guide Weekly, brought to you in part by Duso and Zader, Cafe Arpeggio, the Zeiterian Theater, and the New Bedford Oktoberfest. I'm Paul Santos. Thanks a lot for jumping in with us here tonight. Well, you know, we have a big show. We got a couple of guests. But before we get to that, maybe a couple of opening thoughts. Did you hear that Quinn Fisheries of New Bedford actually laid out a whopping $40 million to buy 6 of Carlos Rafael's Scala vessels? Did you hear about that? Can you believe that? $40 million? Does anybody here have $40 million? I don't think so. That's a lot. In other words, fish for a ton of chips. No? Okay, never mind. That's a lot of clams. Anyway, we do want to say best wishes to the folks at Quinn. Obviously, a big investment here in the city of New Bedford, so all the best and perhaps a chance for our fishing port of New Bedford to kind of turn the page. Meanwhile, in our sister city of Fall River, one of our guests is actually from Fall River, Paul Coogan is probably going to beat Mayor Jazel Correa in November. Then Correa can kind of focus on those legal troubles, where I say there's probably 3 choices. A, he can plead guilty. B, he can go to trial. Or C, he can grab one of those leftover boats from the Codfather, dress up as a fishing boat captain, and make a run for it to the Azores. What do you think? All right, maybe not. Finally, we want to show you a terrific picture, and I'm just wondering if you folks will be able to figure out what that picture is. Now, you see that right there? Wait a minute. Is it this side right here? Yeah, there it is right there. This is the picture. You know what that is? That is the New Bedford Cove Wall at night. A beautiful cove wall at night. You know, the Hurricane Dike. Now, I was thinking, right? Maybe Sheriff Hodgson can show this picture to President Trump on how to build a great, big, beautiful wall. Huh? What do you think? We did it right here in New Bedford, right? All right, enough of that. We want to thank Deja Pike for sending in that picture, a real beautiful picture in the south end of New Bedford. Okay, let's move things along. Tomorrow is the preliminary election right here in New Bedford. And please, if you care about democracy, vote. Also, check with newbedfordguide.com for voting locations because there are a couple of changes, and we certainly don't want you to show up in the wrong place. All right, big show tonight. Don't go by what you've seen so far. This is a really, really, really big show. We have singer and musician Keith Favero joining us in a few minutes. But first, she served 2 full decades as the city councilor in Ward 5. We bring her back again, political analyst Jane Gonsalves. Hello, Jane.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm good. We're just trying to get you warmed up a little bit here.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
the jokes were warm.
You're feeling pretty comfortable?
Yeah, feeling
you know?
good.
I have a whole week to come up with like 2, you know, so it's...
Is your father your joke writer or what?
If my father was a joke writer, they wouldn't make it on the air. But anyway, thank you for coming by. It's always nice to have you here. And before we get into the big night tomorrow, obviously tomorrow the preliminary election here in New Bedford, and one of the things that I think is a little troubling is the participation. It's gotten a little bit lower. You talked a moment ago before we went on the air that things have changed a lot since you were on the council in Ward 5. A lot of, you know, social media and type things going as far as campaigning. So what do you think the big difference is, and why do you think there's not as much participation?
You know, I'm wondering, I've been thinking about this lately and wondering if the current atmosphere where people are so cynical about government, how does that translate into voting? I mean, for the past several years, I mean, as long as we can remember, really, the voter turnout continues to go down. And yet, when I see people seeming to be less apathetic now, and more interested in what's going on, at least on social media they are, it makes me wonder, are we going to have a reverse in the trend and maybe an increase in voter turnout because people seem to be more involved?
Right. Now, a couple issues came up this week, and I know people give editorials and maybe trying to stir the pot on the media side a little bit. But one local pundit had given an editorial about, you know, we have these 3 marijuana places setting up here in New Bedford, 3 marijuana licenses. And it turns out that at least one of them gave campaign contributions to a couple of the local politicians. So right then it's like, oh, wait a minute, yeah, okay, I know it, that kind of thing. You know, you had to run. You had to obviously drum up support. What's your view on something like that?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think that a lot of that concern is coming out of the whole story in Fall River. And what goes on when someone buys a ticket versus what appears to be, or what the FBI alleges is the scam that was going on in Fall River, are very different things. The law allows, the campaign finance law allows you to take up to $1,000 in contributions. And you can't take money from a business over a certain amount, but you don't I think the business, the maximum they can give you is $100, but at a time, perhaps it is. It's been a while since I collected any campaign contributions. But my point is this, that the law allows you to take campaign contributions. There is no restriction on who can or can't give relative to what their business is before the city. So I think it's up to the councilor to determine whether someone buying a ticket or two makes a difference to how they perceive that person's whatever.
Do you always know
project.
who the contributor is? I mean, do you go through the list and say, okay, Paul Santos contributed, this one contributed, that one contributed?
Conceivably, you don't. If they contribute over a certain amount, they have to be listed on your campaign report. So technically, you should know who's on your campaign report. But to do a mailing, for example, where you're mailing out to 500 people to ask if anybody wants to buy tickets, you may not know who's in that list. You might be gathering that list. A lot of people have help, campaign staff and volunteers that are putting together those kind of things for them and selling tickets for them. So there's sometimes an indirect route as far as who's selling tickets and how the tickets are getting out there. And that may make it the difference as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the races that we have this year. We have an interesting mayor's race, so to speak. We don't have, the big candidate like a few years back when Tony Cabral ran and Linda Morad and all that. But we do have Brian Gomes on the ballot, and, he attempted to get himself off the ballot. And I was actually there when he came in, and I take him at his word. I think he was really trying to get himself off the ballot. But the fact of the matter is he still is on the ballot. He's on there and Councilor at Large. So it's John Mitchell, Brian Gomes, Mike Medeiros, Tyson Moultrie, Jose Perez, and David Pimentel. A lot of names there that don't have a lot of name recognition except for Brian. Mm-hmm. So, even though Brian's not trying to win that, he still has a chance of coming in second, it seems to me anyway. What do you think?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree that he has the most name recognition out of the challengers, so it makes sense that he would probably come in second.
Without even trying?
Right.
Now suppose...
Well, that's been the talk around the town,
Right.
I mean, in general terms, amongst a lot of people.
Right.
That, with this kind of field, that going into the last few days of the nomination paper period, that you could jump in and not have to campaign and get on the final ballot,
right.
based on name recognition alone.
Now, he says he's not running for mayor, and again, I take him at his word. But let's say, for example, anytime you have an entrenched mayor, no matter how well the supporters of that mayor say they're doing and so on and so forth, there's always at least some protest vote, or there's always a vote out there not so happy with the mayor for whatever reason. Now, let's say Brian got 40% of the vote, 42% of the vote, and over in Councilor at Large, he really was still not at risk of losing one of the top 5 spots. Could he reconsider? Could he come out and say, gee, you know what, the voters want me to challenge the mayor, maybe I'll change my mind and jump in?
Well, I mean, he could, because from what I understand from the Secretary of State's opinion is that he's got 8 days to take his name out
Right.
after the primary election. So it does provide him with a very good way to sit and back and see what happens.
Right.
And then decide what to do next.
What about these other candidates here? I mean, a lot of them without name recognition, I know.
I recognize a couple of names. The only person who I have spoken with myself is Tyson Moultrie, Richard Tyson Moultrie.
Yes.
He has a website. He has a really nice website. He's got some platforms, and he's got a platform. He's got some issues. I think he's taking this really seriously. I'm impressed with that. But he's got a name recognition issue, obviously, compared to the other 2 candidates, Gomes and Mitchell. So that'll make a difference. The other candidates in the race, I recognize one name, but other than that, I don't know who they are or what they're doing. As I said, we were talking about it before the show, there's a lot of social media stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I don't see much from other people other than Moultrie, so.
It doesn't really seem to me like if I'm the mayor, I'm going to be too concerned here.
Right.
What do you think?
I agree. I think, though, that you have to recognize that no one wants to be in the position of saying, they still call you mayor if you win by 51%, but
Yeah.
nobody wants to be in the position of saying that they only won by a small amount.
You want to have a mandate, right?
You
always
want to
say, "I
have a
wanna
mandate, you
right,
want to
right.
have a landslide, you want the people to have spoken,
Yeah.
not the people to say,
Right. Real quick, Councilor at Large, you got the 5 incumbents, Ian Abreu, Naomi Carney, Deborah Corello, Brian Gomes, Linda Morad. You do have some challengers here. Read them off real quick. Paul Chase, Leo Choquette, Russell Deering, Carlos Felix, Michael Jansen, Lisa White. Maybe there's a couple of names there that could crack the top 5, but it's not easy to do that, is it?
No, I think the problem's always been, the problem or the advantage in incumbency is really strong in the counselor at large race. You vote for 5 people, and most people, the ballot says, vote for not more than 5. So most people think, I'm going to vote for 5. And so that, almost ensures that the incumbents will return because their names are the first 5 on the ballot. And they also have the advantage of the name recognition, obviously. So those things lead to long-term incumbency in the counselor at large race.
Anybody on the challenging list that you think has run a good campaign or you've heard a lot about?
Again, I haven't heard too much from people. I see a lot of signs for Paul Chase, and he's run before, so I think he probably has some constituency in Ward 5 where he ran last time that will help him get with some of his vote totals. Leo Chiquette has run before. He has a serious campaign going with, literature and a platform. So perhaps those 2 have a chance. They're also high in the alphabet, which helps.
Yeah, right.
So,
the alphabetical order
yeah.
and so forth.
I hate to say that, but it seems to be the way it goes. So,
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Okay, Ward 1, William Brad Markey running for re-election, Dan Costa and Melissa Costa, the challengers. Melissa got into the finals last year and came up short against William Brad Markey. So really a rematch of 2 years ago.
Yeah, it looks like a rematch, and I think that maybe that's what'll happen again. It'll be Melissa and Brad, and I think it's an interesting race from the perspective of there's a very big neighborhood issue going on right now with Parallel Products and the change in their business plan and whether they should be allowed to do that or not in the industrial park. And past experience has shown that the Ward 1 voters don't hold on to their counselors very long, with the exception of Linda Morad and David Goratowski, probably 2 of the longer-serving counselors in Ward 1. So I don't know what's going to happen there.
Luckily, that didn't happen in Ward 5.
Luckily
Ward 5,
not.
Ward 5 was very stable for about 20 years anyway, when Jane was there. Ward 4, Derek Baptiste, Nair Barrows, Sean Carney, Jojo Forts, Dennis Houtman, Kenneth Gilbert. Hey, Jojo, we recognize his name. Sean Carney, the son of Naomi. Barrows, related to Councilor Barrows a few years ago. So there's a few names on there that I think people might say, hey, I know that person.
Right. So Naya's run before. JoJo's run before and has served before.
Right.
So they have more name recognition. I'm really interested to see how Sean's name and connection to, that his mother is a sitting city councilor, is that going to be a benefit for both he and his mother or not a benefit? I'm interested to see how that works out. Will people have the attitude they don't want them both on the council at the same time, or will they treat them separately?
Well, that would be interesting, how a mother and a son on
It
the
would.
same city council, right?
Yeah, that would be
So
very
they could
interesting.
actually argue, they could actually vote differently.
They could.
Right?
I wouldn't be surprised either, actually, because I know Sean's his own person, so it'd be interesting to see what happens.
Now, one of the big issues that people in the community always talk about, my taxes are too high, my taxes are too high, and candidates run, and the taxes are too high, but the council is actually limited on what they can do, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to taxes.
Yeah.
So the only thing
in 30 seconds or less.
I know, we're running out of time. So the thing is, the mayor develops the budget, and basically he's setting the tax levy, the amount to be collected when he determines the final number of the budget. And that's what he submits to the council. The council has the ability to cut the budget. But cutting the budget on its own does not remove that money from the levy. There is additional steps that have to be taken in order for it to actually not come out of people's taxes. So then the other piece of that is we have to determine how much property is available, or we don't, the assessors determine how much property is available and what is the value of that property. So the council's only role with the taxes relative to setting the tax rate is to determine what the difference is going to be, who's going to share what burden of the taxes, the businesses versus the homeowners. And right now, the business rate is much higher than the homeowners per thousand.
One last thought, you served on the council for 20 years. You served with a lot of people. You mentioned JoJo and all these different people over the years. You've had times where you've had disagreements with a colleague, and then a couple of years later, you and that colleague are now on the same side of another issue. So how do you deal with that? I mean, I guess if you really have a heated argument with one of your colleagues, sometimes it kind of settles down, takes a week, and then you kind of, I mean, it's not always easy to have a disagreement with a council.
It's
right?
not, and some people are better at it than others, and I think that in the heat of the moment, I get really angry, but
You can bubble over a little bit on occasion.
well, I think you know that, right?
No, just we're first cousins,
We're
by
first
the way.
cousins,
Yeah,
yeah, so
yes, I do.
you know that. But
That means you have a lot of passion.
But I do.
Yeah.
But I think that what's really important is that if everyone comes from a place of caring about the city and wanting to do the right thing, first of all, and then also I really appreciate if everybody does their homework and knows what they're talking about before they take a vote, then you can't really stay mad. 'Cause
Yeah,
if
right.
people are doing things for the reason they believe to be best for the people in New Bedford, and they know what they're talking about, and they've done their homework, then we're all trying to do the right thing, but we might be getting there by a different route.
Right, and who's going to come in second in the mayor's race, do you think? You want to answer that one?
No.
This is the last question. I figured I'd give the humdinger right at the end, you know?
I feel like if I say names, it's almost like encouraging people to vote for certain people. I don't think I should do that.
At least I didn't do the Barbara Walters, like, what kind of tree are you, or any of that kind of stuff, so we'll save that for another time. Hey, Jane, thanks a lot for stopping by.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll come by again. And
I certainly will.
I have some other issues that I want to talk about. I want to talk about things like women in politics and,
Okay.
the challenges that women may have, and, some of these kind of things that might be interesting. I think you probably have an opinion or two on that.
Oh, certainly, sure.
All right, Jane Gonsalves, thanks very much for
Thank
stopping
you.
by. All right, well, tomorrow night we'll have results here of the election. And by the way, if you put on Channel 95 in New Bedford, well, Tom Hunt and I will be there. Tom Hunt and I will be there giving you the election results, and we'll be live at City Hall, so if you have a chance to check in on that. And of course, you can always be looking at New Bedford Guide. You can have New Bedford Guide on your phone at the same time. That'll always work out well. Well, I have a question for you right now. Have you been the victim of a distracted driver? Well, stay tuned right now for a message from one of our sponsors, Dusso and Zader.
I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry to the guy in the car who rear-ended me because he was distracted by his phone. I'm not sorry that he didn't see me. I'm not sorry that my injury and my totaled car are a problem for him. But he'll be sorry when he finds out who my lawyer is.
If you've been injured by a distracted driver, call Dusso and Zader, and an experienced lawyer will meet with you right away. Anytime, any place. Dusso and Zader, where experience is winning.
Back with more of New Bedford Guide Weekly. Paul Santos along with you for the ride tonight. Glad to have you looking in. And, every single week we have to have a musical guest. We're going to have you move over just a little bit. And that way you're in the middle of the screen. This guy's from Fall River. He needs a little bit extra. Here's a little extra help over here. I'm sorry about that. Ladies and gentlemen, singer, musician, Mr. Keith Viveros. Good to see you, Keith.
You too, Paul.
You are a Fall River guy, right? I was thinking to myself, the son of one of the great mayors of all time, Carlton Viveros, right? That was your dad?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and hey, right now they could use a write-in guy, right? We could write in Keith Viveros.
I might do that.
I think they wanted to have the Manchurian Candidate and all that. Did you hear about that? You're right on top of that. But
I saw that movie.
Yeah, Keith told me that he's not going to get involved in any kind of political commentary.
Absolutely.
That was the previous generation, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you love music, and we're going to talk to you right after you do the first song. But, Keith is a big fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he's going to give us a cover right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Keith Viveros.
Thank you. Okay, a little bit of Stevie Ray.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, you heard about loving, sat to the blind. Without my baby's love, the sun don't shine. She's my sweet little thing. She's my pride and joy. My sweet little baby, I'm little lover boy. Well, I love my baby, my heart and soul. Love my dogs won't never grow old. She's my sweet little thing. She's my pride and joy. My sweet little baby, little lover boy. Yeah, I love my baby. She's long and lean. You mess with her, you see, make it mean. She's my sweet little thing. She's my pride and joy. Sweet little baby, little lover boy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, baby.
A little bit of blues for you.
Yeah, baby mama. It's Mr. Keith
I'm
Vivero,
used to
singer
having my
musician.
band, but you can be my band.
I can
You tell
I can
me.
do the big intro. Well, you got to teach me how to do a little bada bing, bada bang, and all that kind of stuff.
bada
But that's
bing,
great.
bada boom.
What I really like about talking to musicians, I'm gonna have you just move just a step that way.
step.
There you go. Perfect. I get a little more room. The love of music. I love music too, but I don't play, I don't sing or anything like that. But I go out and I listen to music, and I love listening to music. So when I can tell that people like you, right, you love it. Like I see you up there, like I love interviewing people and stuff like that. When I see people like you playing music, I'm thinking, man, this guy, he's on another planet. He loves it so much.
I've heard that. I'm on another planet.
I told him to go
Maybe
that
not-
way. Now
maybe
he's
not-
going that
Maybe
way.
not the same context.
Yeah. So what does it feel like when you're up on stage and you're playing music and you're really connecting with
You're
people?
just lost in it. There's nothing else around you. You're just you, the guys in the band, and it's like, everything else is like totally not there, and it's kind of like, it's fluid. You're like,
Now,
it's fluid.
did you pick up playing music as a young person?
I did. My uncle used to be a drummer when I was a kid, like 9 years old. He used to play with the Royal Coachmen, the Spidells, a whole bunch of bands, and he used to take me around to the clubs he played at. Sometimes I'd go in the club and see him play, he'd sneak me in, and I just fell in love with music.
Now, did you take any classes in school, or did you get
I
taught
took
somehow?
a couple of lessons, but most of the stuff I learned, I remember when I was a kid, I went and bought a record and a book, B.B. King, How to Play the Blues.
Oh,
and it was
that's
Al
great.
Reno's music in Fall River, and I think I was probably 10 years old. And everybody, I liked rock. I always liked rock, but I kind of liked the blues a little bit more than the
Right.
rock. So
So you must have learned that song, The Thrill Is Gone.
I did, yeah.
The Thrill Is Gone Away.
the thrill is gone,
Gone.
thrill is gone away from me. The thrill is gone. The thrill is gone away from me.
It's gone away from me.
Oh, don't steer me wrong. Oh, how lonely I would be.
Yeah. All right.
That's a little bit of it.
See, I only did 5 seconds and it felt good,
Yeah, I think you could. I think
just-
you'd be
yeah.
a good bluesman. You could be like one of the blues brothers.
Yeah, right. I got the
I'll get
suit and the
black
whole
suit with the
thing. Yeah,
hats and
I got the glasses, and
Yeah,
I got the whole thing. Your resume, right? We talk about people's resumes. Like if you did a resume of music, you'd be able to say, "Well, I played with this band, and I played with that band, and I played with this band, and I've been here and I've been there." You've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, I've been doing this. I've been playing in clubs since probably 18.
Wow.
I'm 63.
Oh, I was going to ask you that.
That's okay.
So all those years, all different bands, different types of music, and still get a joy out of it after all these years.
Still love it. Most of the guys I know a lot of guys that are still doing it that are actually older than me.
Right. Well, some people do it as a full-time job. You don't. You do it as a side gig kind of thing.
Yeah.
What's it like? You have a full-time job. You work at 40 hours. Then at nighttime you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. There's a lot of work involved,
It is.
even though it's fun. So how do you manage all
A
that?
lot of times I'm really tired and I'm like, I don't want to pack up because everybody hates packing gear.
Yeah, right.
Everybody loves to play, but nobody wants to move gear. Moving
Yeah.
gear is part of it and getting to the gig. So I just will myself, but once you're there and once you're set up and once you're playing, it's like you're energized. So, you're okay till you got to put it in the car and then go home. Then you're tired again.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that because I've had that happen, not for musician reasons, but sometimes you're home and you're like, I don't want to go out again. But then when you get to where you're going, if it's something that you want to do, exactly, you get like a second wind and you're ready to go again.
It's kind of like the amusement park, only with music.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right, so our musical guest always gets a chance to do a second song. I said last time that's in case they screw up the first one, we get him to do a second one. But actually, he didn't screw up the first song, but he's going to do a second song.
Okay.
And this is going to be what, a Jimi Hendrix, right?
Yeah, I'll do a little bit of what they call Red House by Jimi Hendrix.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Mr. Keith Viveros.
Thank you. Well, there's a red house on the corner. That's where my baby stays. There's a red house on the corner. That's where my baby stays. I've been home to see my baby in 99 and one half days. Now wait a minute, something's wrong here. Lord have mercy, this kid won't lock his door. Now wait a minute, something's wrong. Lord have mercy, this kid won't lock his door. I get a bad, bad feeling. My baby don't live here anymore. I still got a guitar.
Yeah. My baby don't live here anymore.
Red house.
Yeah, my baby don't live here anymore.
Anymore.
Anymore. Where'd she go?
She won't lock back to mama.
Looks like the thrill is gone.
They
Hey,
all
that's
go together.
great. That's great. So, you know, I can tell that you've been doing this a while. You really, really do a great job with the
Thanks.
guitar,
Thank
you
you.
know. I mean, this guy's like rocking it out right here, rocking it out.
You're next. We're going to get
Yeah.
harmonica. Oh,
Wah, 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 wah. Hey, Keith, thank you very much for stopping by.
Very
It's been a lot
welcome.
of fun, and hopefully we're going to reach over here and get a handshake in there,
Yeah.
and hopefully we can have you back again soon.
and we'll be at the Poor Farm.
Yes, get a plug in.
Voodoo Alley, one of my bands, Voodoo Alley, on October 11th.
All right,
Thanks.
go down and see Keith. Thank you very much for stopping by. All right, Keith Viveros, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, man, just rocking out that guitar. We love that. We love that. All right. We want to thank one of our sponsors right now. That's right. We have sponsors, and our sponsor list is growing. We do want you to stop by Cafe Arpeggio, as they have 50% off all iced coffee drinks on any size from 2 to 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 2 to 4 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, offering micro-roasted coffee, nitro cold brew, gourmet sandwiches, smoothies, breakfast sandwiches, and freshly baked pastries. They are conveniently located in the heart of downtown New Bedford at the intersection of Purchase and William Street. Make sure you check out their website, and it is arpeggiomb.com. Well, here's the feel-good story of the day. We're always looking for young citizens, right? Like that Viveros guy you were a good young citizen, right, in Fall River growing up and all that? You were a good citizen. You weren't like a crazy person or anything, right? Now, the records don't go that far back. Well, anyway, a woman took her 7-year-old son, Bentley, to Holy Family, Holy Name Park, and before he played, he walked around collecting all the trash and asked his mother to help to get the trash around the outside so as to not worry about the animals eating the trash. Wasn't that a very nice thing to do? What a good young citizen, and that was sent in by his mother, Brandy, so thank you very much for that. And by the way, you heard a great musician a moment ago, Keith Viveros, so what about Trombone Shorty and Orleans Avenue? They're going to be at the Zeterian on October the 11th. Troy Trombone Shorty Andrews is the band leader and frontman of Trombone Shorty and Orleans Avenue. He has gained international acclaim for his trombone and trumpet virtuosity, songwriting, and ability to blend traditional New Orleans styles with rock, funk, soul, and hip-hop. NPR hailed him as New Orleans' brightest new star in a generation, and his recent 2017 album, Parking Lot Symphony, was released on the legendary Blue Note label. His fiery and contemporary take on New Orleans jazz music traditions makes for an energetic live show that has drawn raves worldwide. So if you want to go to the show and see Trombone Shorty, all you have to do is go to Zeiterion.org. Well, you know, a report has recently come out that says that Fall River is the number 5 community in the country in which to retire. Did you hear about this? So, you know, we kind of looked at that and we went, hey, you know, Fall River's our sister city. We're always joking around with Fall River. We thought that was a little much that people would retire to Fall River. But then we discovered that New Bedford was the number 1 city in which to retire. Now listen. I love New Bedford. I grew up in New Bedford. I raised my family around here. But retire, I'm not so sure. I think it's great around here to raise a family, but in the summertime, those old people, the rheumatoid arthritis comes out and everything, and you got to kind of warm up in January and February. But what do you think? Send us a message because we want to know. And by the way, the 14th annual Oktoberfest is this Saturday, October 5th from 3 to midnight. It features Chops Turner, Grace, the Poor Men, and the New Bedford Rude Boys. And it's sponsored by the Southcoast Business Alliance, and also New Bedford Guide will have a special preview show that's this Wednesday night, 6 o'clock, live right here. And that'll be between 2 and 6 p.m., hosted by Chris Resendez. So that'll get you going. That's this Wednesday night, the warm-up show, and Oktoberfest coming up on Saturday. And we want you to stop by Cafe Arpeggio, that's right. 50% off all iced coffee drinks on any size from 2 to 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday, and 2 to 4 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, offering micro-roasted coffee, nitro cold brew, gourmet sandwiches, smoothies, breakfast sandwiches, and freshly baked pastries. They are conveniently located in the heart of downtown New Bedford, not far from our very studio. And they're at the intersection of Purchase and William Street. Check out their website at arpeggione.com. Well, vaping in Massachusetts. There has been a vaping ban in Massachusetts. Anybody here? Any vapors over here? You're not a vapor, are you? Not a vapor. They're playing that Vicks vaping rub. That's about it. Well, anyway, Connecticut's vaping stores have seen an increase in customers since the ban took effect. In fact, they have a ban in Rhode Island as well. Some say buyers just go to other states or the black market to make the purchase, so it's not really stopping anyone. And some people have not been able to handle it well. They've mixed some stuff. It can be bad, so we don't mean to make light of it. But what do you think? Send your message to New Bedford Guide, and we'll see what you folks think about that issue. And Faces of New Bedford. Yes, we have Faces of New Bedford. We're up to 224, and this time it is Austin Ace on Earth Pereira. He has a nickname, Austin Ace on Earth Pereira, right? A 27-year-old artist, DJ, and meditation teacher, always gravitated toward the arts, growing up heavily influenced by the music he was listening to and the books he has been reading. Really, really great. Austin Ace on Earth Pereira, 27 years old, and you can read all about him at Austin Pereira you read about him at NewBedfordGuide.com. That's what we need for Keith Viveros. We need like Keith, you know, jamming with the guitar Viveros or something like that, you know, or I don't know, something like that. We'll come up with something. Now, have you been the victim of a distracted driver? Well, once again, we have a message from one of our sponsors. Do so in Zader.
I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry to the guy in the car who rear-ended me because he was distracted by his phone. I'm not sorry that he didn't see me. I'm not sorry that my injury and my totaled car are a problem for him. But he'll be sorry when he finds out who my lawyer is.
If you've been injured by a distracted driver, call Dussault and Zader, and an experienced lawyer will meet with you right away. Anytime, any place. Dussault and Zader, where experience is winning.
All right, we'd like to take the opportunity to thank our guests tonight here in New Bedford Guide Weekly. We're having some fun. Hopefully we're being informative as well, but we definitely like to have some fun and joke around as well. We'd like to thank Jane Gonsalves. You know, she served for 2 decades over there in Ward 5. We got her insight about the preliminary election tomorrow night. Please vote, and please tune in to Channel 95 tomorrow night. Tom Hunt and I will be there. We'll be right down there at New Bedford City Hall, live and in color, to give you all of the returns. And we'd also like to thank our other guest, Mr. Keith Viveros. And again, we got to come up with a name like Keith. He's unbelievable with the guitar, Viveros or something like that, so you can put a name in between. That was some nasty guitar playing. He's still over here. He's trying to help me through the final moments of the show here, which we need all the help we can get. Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much. And Keith's going to come back again, and tell all your musician friends that we're booking far in advance. You got to get in early. Got to get in early and often. Well, next week we have a very fun and informative show coming up. Nick Carrere will be here, and he's involved in trying to help people with opioid abuse and so forth. A very, very serious subject, something that I think will be very insightful for the folks here along the South Coast. And we have our musical guest. Yes, it is the whiskey poet. It is Craig DeMello. See, Craig DeMello, he's got a name too, the Whiskey Poet, and he is a very, very talented musician, and he will be with us right here on New Bedford Guide Weekly. Well, thanks again for watching. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back again next week for more of New Bedford Guide Weekly. I'm Paul Santos. Talk to you again soon.